If everyone could take their seats, please. I'd like to call to order the board meeting, the regular board meeting of Community Unit School District 201, today, Tuesday, September 13th, 2011. Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mr. Armstrong?
Here.
Ms. Caparelli?
Here.
Mr. Charleston?
Here.
Mrs. Charlton?
Here.
Mrs. Hancock?
Here.
Mr. Price?
Here.
Mrs. Thomas?
Here. We could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is public comments. Are there any public comments? All right, then we will move right to administration, the consent agenda. Kevin, I had talked, did you want to talk about personnel recommendations and just to briefly?
Oh, sure.
You want to talk?
Sure. Within the personnel recommendations, we are recommending the hiring of 3 teacher assistants with the thinking one for each of the grade levels at Manning, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. And they are teacher assistants that are certified teachers as well. And so they will be able to work. The plan is that for each grade level, the 3 grade level teachers along with the teacher assistant will work together and be able to take the groups of students and work in smaller groups. And so I guess artificially reduce the class size and be able to take groups of students to various parts of the building to work with them. So hopefully that helps us through this year, and then we'll begin a process for looking forward. But at least this will get us through this year.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one quick question. How soon will they start?
If everything goes well tonight, they can start tomorrow.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Okay, does anybody have anything else on the consent agenda?
Kim, just a quick question on the pool contract. There's a reference to it increasing at 5% annually, but I didn't see a trigger. Like, is there a notice date where they have to notice us or we have to notice them about extending it into the next year?
Yeah, typically in April they do that.
Because I didn't see like a date.
Okay, I thought that was in there, but that's when I have to review the contract again. But I thought that was in there. We just did a 1 year this year too, just so we can figure out what we're doing with all our facilities and programs.
Understood. Okay.
You covered it already? Okay.
You covered it already.
It says May.
Everybody then? Okay. Then the chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Number 1, personnel recommendations. 2, appointment of hearing officer. 3, appointment of non-discrimination officers, complaint managers. 4, application of recognition of schools. 5, approval of donation. And 6, approval of Westmont Swim Club contract. Roll call, please, Ms. McMahon.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Motion.
I move to approve the agenda, or consent agenda.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Ms. Caparelli?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Before we leave off of that, I just wanted to talk, if I can, the approval of donation of science supply items. Joel, are these items that you had donated?
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, they're not from me personally, but they're from the Illinois Department of Health, Public Health Division of Laboratories in Chicago. We have a policy there that if we have surplus equipment and supplies, that they can be donated to other outside agencies. And so I was doing a lot of reorganization of our storage area and came across a number of items that are no longer utilized, so I sought permission to donate them to the high school science department. And hands-on science experiments and that sort of thing are really important for students. I know we can see a lot on YouTube and a lot on the internet and that about different science experiments and that sort of thing, but it's good to have that hands-on experience. So if I can have an opportunity in the future to donate other items, I will, if I come across things that are appropriate for schools. And these, most of it was a lot of glassware type of items that no longer are utilized routinely in our facilities, so.
Great.
Happy to do that,
Great,
arrange
thank
for
you.
that. And I'm very pleased that, again, our institution has that as a policy.
Great, thank you. Okay, then the next item, a superintendent's report?
Within the superintendent's report, the first item is early childhood construction grant. The Illinois State Board of Education is offering a construction grant geared towards early childhood programs. And with this grant, it'd be a 10% matching, so the school district would have to supply 10% of the funds. The state then provides the additional dollars necessary, and it's a maximum of $5 million. The deadline for application is November 14th, and in light of, granted, we haven't made any decisions at this point, but in light of some of the discussions that we've been having at the facilities committee meeting, in terms of early childhood, and even this morning, Linda Cloudwitter, we were meeting this morning and mentioned that definitely there are some things that we could do better with our early childhood program, provided we had the proper facilities and funding for it. This, I think, is definitely an opportunity for our district to explore, and our intent is to apply for a grant and seeing, you know, what happens. Even if you're awarded a grant, there's no obligation on the district's part. So with the November 14th deadline, we thought it would be wise to go ahead and apply for it. It's for, you know, renovation to existing spaces as well as new spaces. So, and in conversations with Steve Cashman, he thought that some of the conversations that have been taking place at the facility committee meeting, he thought that some of those projects that we've been talking about would fall under this grant and meet this grant. So that's something that we're going to be pursuing, and we can update the board as we move through that process.
So Kevin, between now and November 14th, which is fairly soon in the whole scheme of doing things, what are the steps? What things have to happen to make sure we make this deadline?
Well, basically, you know, reviewing the grant application and meeting the specifics of the grant application.
How detailed does that application have to be? Do we have to be asking for very specific things, or?
Yes, I haven't had a chance to review it in depth yet, but the grant application can be no longer than 20 pages typed, so that's good.
No longer.
Yeah.
Versus not less than 20
Yeah.
pages? Okay, very good.
But Rosemary Blessman has already approached me, and Linda Cloudwitter, and we're going to work on, you know, the pieces that pertain, you know, just like we did for the program to fund this year. We're going to work on the construction grant together, and then in conjunction with Steve Cashman. And so there are certain pieces that Steve is aware of. I've sent him all of the information so that he can do that, and then a lot of the other pieces are programmatic and how things are going to run.
Okay.
So.
Do we have a time frame for the actual award? Like, is it next spring sometime, or did it just kind of leave it open-ended?
I think
Don't-
the
or
only
we
date
don't
I
know?
saw
I
was the
don't
November
remember.
14th application date.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then from there, you kind of have to wait on the state.
okay.
So if we go, you know, I know one of the things they're talking about is having early childhood moved to south and that. Is that, if we went ahead and did that, and then the grant came in later, does that, are we reimbursing ourselves, or?
That's a conversation we'd have to have with the state and find
Yeah.
out.
Okay.
You know, if it indeed, if you could still qualify for the dollars if you've already proceeded with the work, or
Okay.
if you would have to wait for approval, you know,
Okay.
for those projects to be considered, so.
Okay, great. So that's great, 90% they would,
Right. they
that's
would,
what the grant is?
90%, right.
That's great.
In terms of facility planning, our next meeting is Monday the 19th at 7 o'clock in the Manning Community Room. And our goal is, again, if truly we want to be doing something over the summer of 2012 for the opening of the school year in terms of improving our facilities, then we need to start getting into decision-making mode. And so the plan is for Steve Cashman to be here on September 27th and to present some of the short-range projects that have been discussed with the facility committee and start that approval process with the board so he can get moving forward on his work. One of the developments that was shared with the facility committee meeting, because one of the questions is what to do with the district office. I think most people on the committee are in agreement that it'd be nice to move the district office to free up space at Manning. The question then is, what do you do at the district office? And one possibility is relocating to South Elementary. And it's at the same time, Marker has approached our district, and they're also in need of office space. And so we've had some conversations about exploring the dual use of South for both offices. And, you know, they're open to that possibility. If we were able to continue down that path, Marker would assist with renovation costs, and then we would also pick up revenue from Marker as a lease. Right now, District 99 is leasing a portion of that building, and if it would require us to have that conversation with District 99, we would need to notify them by December to let them know our intent of no longer leasing the space for them. So there's definitely a couple of possibilities with the facility planning, and again, we'll keep the board apprised of those developments. With the strategic planning, Thursday is our next meeting, the 15th. And again, we're starting at 6 o'clock with the goal of continuing to move forward with that planning process. And so hopefully we'll continue to make progress and get that wrapped up quickly here. And then with the Climate Committee, we met last night, the Climate Committee, and I think it was probably, I know Linda shared that she thought might have been one of our more productive meetings, and we were able to really get some work done in approximately an hour. But one of the things I think that really nice that came out of there, the question for the Climate Committee was to generate ideas that could be implemented right now this year that would have an impact on the overall climate of our buildings with little cost and not too much in terms of effort. And so we generated 6 ideas, I think it was, and prioritized 3. And so this Friday, our admin meeting, we're going to be talking about those ideas, start developing the action plans for those, and our next meeting is the 26th, and we'll bring those action plans back to the committee for their to look at and to weigh in on. But definitely we'll be able to implement some things in short order that should have a positive impact on our buildings.
Could you share that with us? Is that what you were going to say?
I was going to say, is someone going to come and do a board report?
Right.
Okay.
Well, you know, in your board update, I can put the ideas in there. We just took them off the
Flip charts?
Thank you, the flip chart paper, and reduced it into a Word document so that it can be, you know, shared out. So we'll do that, and then in the district update, we'll share it out with staff as well. Some of those ideas.
Thank you.
The WTA monthly meeting, the first Wednesday of September, met with Laura Riley and Jason Prisney, WTA. And for the most part, it's just an avenue of communication, and things are, from both sides, are going well. And we're talking a little bit about the strategic planning process and vision for the district. One thing that I can remember last June, we had a conversation with the WTA, and Laura reminded me of this. An opportunity of maybe doing somewhat of a board workshop with the board and the WTA. And so Laura and I will take a look at calendars and come up with some possible dates and email those out. Yes?
Were there certain topics that are people that were most eager to cover in that, or is this more of a broad?
You know, I think from the WTA perspective, you know, the climate of buildings is one of the things that prompted the discussion.
Okay.
And so I think that's probably where they want to focus on. We are going to resume contract negotiations in February, and whether or not they want to start throwing out some ideas, or on our end, we wanted to throw out some ideas just to kind of get people thinking about some ideas prior to entering into negotiations. But what really kind of prompted it was climate in buildings, and then also just opening up the avenues of communication within the district.
Thank you.
I think that sounds great. I'd be in favor of doing something, any way that we can have more discussions with WTA or any group would be great.
Sure. Mm-hmm. And then just, you have the most recent FOIA request and then legislative report.
Okay, that's all?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, then we are at, are there any board reports?
I just had one thing I'd like to mention. Recently, I was invited to go to the high school for the freshman orientation day. It was a wonderful experience. I hadn't, obviously been there before, only having elementary kids, but the guidance department and everybody there clearly does a great time and or has a great program and kind of, I thought, woke the kids up a little bit. It starts today. We make the decisions today to set up 4 years from now and the rest of our life. And I just wanted to thank them for inviting me. And I also promised them I'd mention this, that there's a video that they show that was produced by, I believe, previous students. And previous students are in it talking about their experiences and what students need to do when they're there. And I think the more people that see that might be better off. So I don't know, maybe put it on the website or show it to 8th graders or something. But it was truly a wonderful video. So, and I had a great time, and I thank them.
Great. Anything else?
I just wanted to comment that Sunday was the kickoff for Westmont Cub Scouts for this season. And we draw a large number of our scouts from Miller and Manning and had a tremendous turnout along with the mayor and the fire chief. But the other thing that's really nice is not only is it both of our schools, but we also pull from Holy Trinity, we pull from Downers Grove, from Clarendon Hills, from Darien. So our kids are getting exposure not only to each other, meaning our 2 elementary schools, but additionally to some of the other elementary groups in our community. Parents and children alike are getting that exposure. The event was great, and a lot of people that attended just felt really good about having such a nice mix of kids. So it's a really positive thing for our schools, for our boys.
Anyone else?
I'll just add one quick thing, and that was that I attended the remembrance ceremony at the Fire Police Department on Trub on Sunday, and it was a very interesting event, and really enjoyed the guest speaker. And actually quite a large turnout, more than I thought really was. So it was.
Chief Trout said the same thing to me. Quite a large turnout.
Standing room only. So it was a very nice event, and I really thank the village and the police department, fire department, and any other groups that helped organize that. It was a really nice way to remember the tragedy of 9/11.
Okay, anything else? Okay, then are there any other public comments? No? Well, then the chair will entertain a motion.
Special order. Public comments, is that what you
Yes, public comments.
Special order or just
Oh, did you want to speak? Yes. Come on up here.
Now's the time.
plastic in me?
Yes, you're first.
I guess, truth be known now, I work
If
for
you could come up to there, and then if you could state your name.
Dan Lehman. I've got a son at the junior high as well as Manning, and a lot of you probably know me because I'm somewhat active in sports and other things. And truth be known, I work for a competing technology to those people who are shaped like a fruit. So don't think I'm attacking them. I'm just, I wanted to ask you because, you know, what you read in the paper is sometimes misstated, maybe tilted or spun for what they want to say. And so I'm kind of curious as to just ask you guys in the spirit of openness, what was the idea and the concept behind the pads? And how did we get to that? And I mean, I've been to other meetings. I've seen the sheets you guys have done for busing, for maintenance. I know there's a spreadsheet that tells me how many pieces of, you know, Kleenex are used in the school. So I can only assume that same type of effort was put in for the technology. And I'm curious, is that a public document? Is that something we have to dig deeper? Is that something you guys know off the top of your head?
Well, I think in terms of why the technology, that's probably best addressed
Okay,
to
yeah, let me back up because
Nancy.
I would.
In terms of the dollars?
The Board Docs LT is a highly regarded product.
Yeah.
Has got phenomenal feedback from hundreds. It's one of the fastest growing. So I did my due diligence at that.
Yeah.
My question was, yes, more the
hardware,
correct, the expense of the hardware.
That's I'm going to, can we punt?
Well, yeah. And, Nancy Pataglia is our Director of Technology, and she would probably be the person best first to answer your questions. you know.
And one more thing too is that you're asking specific questions. This was discussed at 2 separate board meetings. So you can go back, I think it was June and July, and look
Okay.
at board meetings. And so there was a discussion at the board table, and there were documents provided to the board. And that, is that what?
And so those will be available on Board Docs LT,
No, no.
as I've read.
No.
Actually, they won't be, but
Board
they're
docs-
they're on the old agendas and
Go on
minutes
the
and
other,
stuff.
go on the old agendas.
Okay,
District site.
The district
It's
site.
on the district site.
And
okay, I
you'll
didn't
see-
spot those.
You go to the District 201 website.
Sure.
Go under Board of Education, go under agendas.
Yeah, look in
But you
June.
have to now go to previous to tonight,
Okay.
And that's where you'll see what was out there and what the board
Well, and
discussed.
I know it's pretty easy to see where I'm coming from. It's just, it's 20 grand. And so I'm, as a guy sitting down the street who's put off some purchase, okay, it's $20,000 in a newspaper article, blah, blah, blah. So I guess,
It wasn't 20 grand to purchase the iPads. We purchased 8 iPads at $4.99 a piece.
Okay.
With covers for them. What I think the news article did is cost out our 4-year cost, or our 5-year cost, including the subscription to Board Docs, and replacing, after 4 years, replacing.
oh, they built in the replacement costs of new,
We had a replacement cost per year, so that it tossed it out for 4 years.
okay, because that was a question.
That's why that number is so
Yeah,
large.
Dan, there's a, if you go, I'll encourage you just, to answer the question directly, go to the June board packet, and that analysis and conversation is actually in there with a spreadsheet and a memo.
Really? That's great.
It's June 9th or June 21st.
It's
Okay.
June 21st.
Because again, as you know, as the IT director, your acquisition costs are typically about a third, maybe close to a half of what your true costs are. And so that was another thing that concerned me was, again, now these subscriptions built in, and maintenance and support and
And replacement cost. So
exactly, the oops cost.
Right, that cost, but,
And-
talk further about why we chose the iPad, or?
Well, the other, if we've answered your question, the other thing too is that Board Docs is not just for the board, it's for all.
Oh, absolutely.
So that purchase is.
Well, and in the frequently asked questions area of Board Docs, it says, hey, one of their big selling points is reuse whatever technology you guys have. We're not forcing you on new platforms. You know, their big sales point is, you got old laptops sitting around? You've got old gear sitting around? We're more than adequate because it's in the cloud, because it's internet-based. You don't need super hard drives, big memory, throughput. You simply need a Wi-Fi connection, and you're good to go. So that was kind of the one that I went, again, working for this for 20 years and selling. By the way, I'm in sales, so I actually like when you buy stuff. But I still wanted to ask, only because it still reads a little bit to me as though it's an add-on rather than a necessity. And again, I like the lack of paper. The article mentioned courier fees. I hope to God that was a misspeak. With as small as community as we are, I mean, we weren't really paying
No, it's.
people to drive around, were we?
The courier, our custodians work a certain length of the day, and so they're usually, their day ends
Yeah,
before our book is complete, so they're being paid overtime to deliver board books to board members. So that is one of the costs that we incur.
Really? Okay.
And-
So that is interesting, because a lot of you guys have, a lot of people have kids in the school.
Yeah, but those are confidential documents, we
Yeah,
can't send those just with.
Okay, well, in the old days we could, because my dad did 30 years in
That's
School
okay.
District 126.
And why don't you go take a look at the June, because there's, not only are there documentation, but you
That's
can
perfect,
also
okay.
look at the
So-
discussion.
So,
I think
and so you
that's
discussed reusing existing equipment?
We discussed all of the
Right.
factors that went into it.
I think if you contact Nancy,
Right.
she'll be able to take you through the process you used, because she did evaluate different platforms and how to best.
Well, and you've been helpful to me on other hiccups via the web, so I know I get a quick response back. I know I'm not going offshore with my responses. They're quick. Well, and that's, and again, so you factored in the maintenance, you factored in that, you factored in the refresh. From a theft standpoint then, the school board, because I know, from a homeowner's work, we get to cover whatever we bring home. Is that part of in terms of a theft, in terms of to and from, is that,
We covered it with Apple Care to protect it damage. We didn't cover theft, but that would be your homeowner's insurance.
Would be our own personal
and
homeowners.
that's, I'm just curious as to whether or not the board stuff you move from here to home comes under the school policy, or, again, it was just the little things. As I look, again, when I go to sell gear to companies, I am constantly, what's the real ROI? And nobody wants to hear it saves me 15 minutes of work, because that's theoretical. The true ROI is the paper, the people, the time, and the efforts. And so that's really kind of what I was digging into. And unfortunately, I did not know, it doesn't reference it in the web notes. It doesn't say for additional information, go back. So in the comments made by the school board, or I believe you were quoted in there, and it was like, oh yeah, and we're going to save X and Y. It doesn't reference back to any other.
Well, let me do this. In the interest, I do have to kind of watch, public comments are limited to 5 minutes.
Right.
So why don't we say, go and take a look at the discussion, because it's on, you can take a look at that on the website. You can see the discussion amongst the board members. You can see the documents that are referenced that the board members had. And then if you have any other questions, maybe you could follow up with Nancy on those. Would that?
Okay, now it's, and I'll pull that up, and I appreciate that. And that $5,500 number that they keep referencing that's pretty accurate? Because again, I keep reading that.
Well,
over 4 years, there's a number
I guess I would say, before you,
Yeah.
let's just
Nancy, you can talk with
talk to
Nancy
Nancy,
and
because I don't know, the article might.
Okay, I only asked because they quoted Kevin.
Right.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I know. I preface this by saying what you read is not always what you
I
hear.
wanted to.
That's why I'm sending you to the document.
Okay, June 9th or
It's actually June 21st. I'm actually looking at the document right
the
now.
June 21st stack.
All the
Perfect.
documents
Definitely
are
It's
there.
in
All right.
the pre-post, the pre-packet.
Okay, are there any other public comments? If you could please step forward.
My name's Joe Cozart, and I have a son at Manning. I've met some of you. I know you're all good people. I know you have good intentions. I'm not here to try and pick a fight or anything. I can barely express to you reasonably how angry it makes me that we were paying for couriers to deliver things in a town that is small enough I can walk across it in 30 minutes or less. To me, it's unconscionable in times of austerity that is something we were doing. I'm a Cub Scout leader. I've coached baseball. The Cub Scouts don't deliver things to me. They have children's social security numbers on it, dates of birth, names, parents' names. It may not be the same kind of confidential information, but I'm sure everybody's aware in today's times, that's the kind of information that you don't want to get out. We all protect that. For everything I do with these kids, there's confidential information. No one delivers it. I go pick it up myself. We don't live in North Dakota. It's incomprehensible to me. I just can't fathom that. It would seem to me, even for just appearance's sake, when we enter times of austerity, with the economic situation that our town is in, that the district is in, that some of us are in, it seems to me that it would be a no-brainer to throw that to the wayside and just go pick the stuff up. If nothing else, for fear that the newspaper would pick up on it and write a story that couriers are delivering these documents. Again, I'm not trying to be out of line. I have a lot of trouble with that. That's all I have to say.
Any other public comments? Okay, then the chair will entertain a motion to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing a student discipline matter. And, okay.
So moved.
Second? Roll call, please, Ms. McMahon?
Ms. Caparelli?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
And there will not be a vote after that meeting. Thank you.